Hi, this is Summer with Summerly Design Co. and today I'm going to show you how to do Estonian inlay knitting. This is a really fun technique. It's almost like Fair Isle in reverse. You're creating designs on the fabric using strands of yarn. So they almost kind of look like the floats that you get on the wrong side of your work when you do Fair Isle knitting. It's a very simple technique to do. It looks really beautiful and it's just a really interesting, neat skill to have, whether you're doing sweaters or, of course, my favorite, socks. You could also do it on mittens and gloves. You see it a lot on Estonian mittens and gloves, but then they also do stockings as well. I've put it on this pair of socks here. I will link the pattern for these socks in the description of this video, and I'm also going to do a blog post on this technique, so I will link the blog post in the description of this video as well, along with links to where you can find all my sock knitting patterns on Ravelry and Etsy, as well as my Instagram. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to get this sock out of the way. All right, so when you're doing Estonian inlay technique, you're usually adding in, different colors, and typically you're knitting two strands held together to do your inlay. Of course, I'm just knitting with one strand to knit the sock, but to do the inlay pattern, I'm doing two strands held together. Obviously, I've already started working on the design, so my yarn is already attached and ready to go, but I am going to show you when you first start your design, to add in your yarn, this is what you do. You just lay it, let me get these needles here. You are just going to lay it over like that to start knitting. The short end of your yarn here, the end of it is going to be hanging off the back, and the yarn that's attached to your ball is going to be in the front. So this is how you would join in the yarn to start your design. You would have the end of the yarn hanging off the back like that. Of course, mine's already added in, so I can just pick it up and go. So anyways, I've reached the point where I am ready to start my design. So I'm going to bring my yarn up. I've already got it attached, and I'm going to bring it up through the needles to the front. Now, when you're doing Estonian inlay knitting, typically the pattern has a chart, and I will put the chart in the blog post so that you can see what an Estonian inlay knitting chart looks like. But you will be following a chart, and the chart will specify how many stitches you knit to create your bars. So that's what you'll be following whenever you do this technique. So I've pulled my yarn. We're ready to go now. I've pulled my yarn up to the front, and I have to knit 2 stitches to make a 2-stitch bar. So I'm just going to knit 2 stitches, and then I'm going to bring the yarn to the back of my work. And as you can see, that creates a bar across the front of my fabric. Now I've got to knit a stitch, and now I need to create another bar over 2 stitches. So I pull the yarn to the front again, and I knit 2 stitches. And then I pull the yarn to the back. And that's it for that particular round. I just knit to finish the round. And I have done the first row in the pattern for this particular design. And you can kind of tug on the yarn a little bit to get the stitches straightened out. You don't want to pull too tight because then you'll pucker the fabric. You can kind of stretch it with your hands a little bit to get it kind of evened out. And that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and knit all the way around to come back for the second round of the design. And I'm going to show you what we do to get our yarn in the right place. For the second row of the design, I have to start wrapping here at this stitch, but my yarn is all the way over here, and we don't want to have super long floats. So I'm going to show you what to do to get your yarn in the position it needs to be in to start the next round. Okay, I've now worked back to where I'm ready to start the second round of the inlay design, and now I'm going to show you what to do to get our yarn in the proper position it needs to be in order to knit the second row. So again, when I left off on the first row, my yarn was all the way over here and I need it to be over here so I don't have super long floats. So this is actually really cool. It's honestly kind of like magic. We're gonna take our yarn and create a big loop. Okay, see how I kind of made this loop? Do it one more time. You are just going to create a loop, and you want the yarn that's attached to the ball on the right side, and the yarn that is attached to your actual work is on the left side of the loop. And you're going to pull it through to the front. So you're going to have a big loop hanging out on the front of your work, but it won't be there for long. So now I'm going to knit my stitches. For this one, I have to do 3 stitches. All right. Now I'm just simply going to put the loop in the back. So it looks like this, hanging out in the back. And I'm going to knit a stitch. And now I've got to do a bar with 3 more stitches. So I'm going to pick up my loop and I'm going to bring it back to the front again, same as before. And now I'm going to knit 3 more stitches. And then bring my loop back again. And finish knitting that. All right, so now we've got this big loop in the back, as you can see here, just kind of hanging out, but we're about to get rid of it and it's really, really cool. So kind of get that undone here a little bit. The yarn kind of likes to twist. So all we're gonna do, this is the yarn that's attached to my yarn balls. I'm just gonna pull it, just like that, and boom, that's it. No big float. And that's what it looks like on the other side. So that's all you have to do to get your yarn back into position where you need it to be. And then of course, when I start the 3rd round, it's where I need it to be. So you really only have to do that every other round usually. And again, this is a pretty simple design. There are a lot of beautiful Estonian inlay designs that have multiple colors and just really beautiful complex patterns. This one is fairly simple. It's a very good introduction to the Estonian inlay technique. So once again, I will post a link to this sock pattern. If you want to learn to do this technique, this is a good one to start out on, and I will post a link to this pattern in the description of this video. I will also post links to the blog. The blog that accompanies this will have an example of what an Estonian inlay chart looks like so that you can see how they're read. It's very similar to Fair Isle charts, so if you're familiar with color work charts, you'll be able to read it. And then I'll also post links to all of my patterns on Ravelry, Etsy, and Instagram, etc. So if you want to follow me there, you can. I post a lot of fun tips and tricks there as well, and just cool stuff about, you know, designing and all of that, all fun things knitting. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.